What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm Howard Bender. With me, of course, smiling Britt Flynn and always happy Andrew Cooper. Look at that. What's going on, guys? How are you today? Happy Scott Fishbowl Day today.
Yeah, Scott Fishbowl slow draft day, where you get really excited about it, and then your draft completely stalls because someone's at work, and then and then you realize that you should have done a live draft. That's what we do today, right? That's the event today.
I will say the Sonic division has been on top of it. Like everybody, as soon as it started, went bang, 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 went to the 7th spot, only had to wait an hour for the 7 to pick. So I've already got my pick in at 8. We're all the way to the 12th pick, just starting. So, I mean, we've been making very good time, and I'm pretty stoked about it.
If everybody makes, honestly, it is a slow draft for a reason. People have to work and stuff. But if everybody makes their first pick within the first couple hours, at least you know that they know the draft is happening, and you can be pretty happy about it, right? It's when somebody doesn't even know it's happening and you get a full 8-hour clock from somebody in the first round, that's nightmare mode. So if everyone makes at least one pick today, then you can feel pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of funny because, I've got a lot of friends from the East Coast who are in the Scott Fishbowl, or, helped get them in and, had them all sign up. And so they're all like super jazzed about it. And, they just sit there and they hit me up constantly. What always cracks me up is when it's an analyst who's sitting there on the clock and it takes some time. They all hit me up. Do you know so-and-so? Do you know this person? Tell them to make their goddamn pick. I can't stand this, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm laughing hysterically about it because, and I'll say this for anybody who's out there right now, because I kind of feel like it's the same. It's a proper analogy. Like I say this to my wife all the time because my wife is a horribly aggressive driver. Like every time she gets behind the wheel of the car, it's a race to get to wherever she has to go. She's weaving in and out of lanes on highways and just, and I'm just like, you're making me nuts. I feel like a milkshake in here. I'm sitting in the death seat because she's the control freak. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. If you want to, if driving is that important to you, go ahead. I grew up in New York City. Who the hell drives around New York City? So, but I said to her, I'm like, listen, when you're sitting here on a single lane highway or road, whatever it is, and the person in front of you is driving slow and you start riding up on his tail or you start flashing your brights at him, whatever the case may be, if somebody's doing that to me, I'm slowing down more. I'm driving 2 miles an hour and I'm like, up yours. You want to keep doing that? Oh, look, I just jumped on my brake. Oh, did you just hit me from behind? Guess who's at fault? So, I've tried to ingrain that into her head, and yet it happens here with Scott Fishbowl. If you sit there and you start pissing and moaning about an analyst, if you sit there and you start hating on somebody, if you're like, you're on the clock, dude, you're taking up time. It's the first round. Why can't you make your pick? Blah, blah, blah. Like, if you start doing that, if I'm the analyst because I'm doing multiple things, and I think everybody is pretty familiar with what my schedule is, and my schedule is tight. So if I'm lagging and people start doing that, I want to be like, you know what? Up yours. I'm taking full 8 hours. Oh, am I the one too? Oh, well.
There it is. There's a little inside baseball, folks. The fantasy break check from Howard Bender.
That's what we should call it. We should call it the fantasy break check. Absolutely.
Right, yeah.
I will say that in Arkansas, though, that analogy doesn't work because we just don't care. If somebody brake checks us, we'll pass on a double. We'll pass over a hill. We'll do anything. We have
all the rules are off.
Right, because there are 4 cars in Arkansas.
That's not true.
And they can all go off road. They all go off road.
Okay. If Granddaddy's pickup truck from 1912 doesn't count.
Well, it's typically chicken trucks, but
chicken trucks.
So we just learned to go around them.
So here you go. So Britt gets railed for Arkansas and SEC bias in the Better Morning Show. She immediately tries to bring out the Arkansas in her on this one. Is that what we're getting at now?
The Arkansas day today.
It apparently became a theme. I can't let go of how my morning started, and that's how it started. So that's how the day is going to be.
Yeah, the morning show definitely starts the day on a toxic note some days. Just gotta get up there. Oh my God, Corey, I'm gonna get him tomorrow. But
Oh
yeah, that's funny.
man.
And I'll tell this to anybody out there who is a little frustrated or whatever. There is one benefit to it, right? Well, I guess there's two. One benefit is that you get to wait and see all the ADP come in, right? Like it evens out. If your draft is going slow, you actually have a little bit of advantage there. The other thing is that these drafts take 10 days. Some of them can take a couple weeks. And sometimes news breaks. There was one year where Austin Eckler got hurt in the middle of the Scott Fish Bowl draft, right? There was the year where like Tyreek Hill had the news that broke, and a couple people, it's like you were able to get, if you were on the clock when they announced that he was not only not in trouble, but they were giving him an extension. He just went off the board right there. So
See, now
sometimes it can work in your favor.
you've just basically told everybody to sit and wait and milk the clock
Great
for
chat.
all their picks, which is just going to me, it's just going to enrage people even more. I mean, listen, you guys have never met my wife when she's behind the wheel of a car. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I white knuckle it to every place we go to. It's crazy. But all right, I'll tell you what. So we're going to talk specifics with the Scott Fish Bowl in a little bit. We're also going to be talking about John and Pemba's article in the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Football Draft Guide, breaking down the quarterback tiers. Figured it was a good time here for us to start talking, especially with the Scott Fish Bowl going on. It is a super flex draft. We do see quarterbacks going off the board really, really early. So I figured it was the perfect pairing right here for John's ADP tiers article for quarterbacks plus Superflex draft strategy, because there are definitely some tips and ideas that you might want to kind of utilize as you move forward. But as always, we like to start off here with some of those news items, those popcorn headlines, whatever you want to call it. There is some stuff going on around the NFL, and Britt, you're like our news champion. Let's go to our News One reporter, Britt Flynn, who's on location in Arkansas.
We got to get some of that breaking news. Like, we got to get a sounder. Earn Dog. Let's get that going. Yeah.
Thanks, Howard. For today's news around the NFL.
You know what? I wish I had a Gatorade right now. This water sucks.
That's why I put some Mio in my water, because I'm tired of just plain water. It's awful.
I'm just gonna walk off this podcast. I'm just gonna go and get myself something better to drink and text my wife to bring me. I need something snappy. That's what I say to her. I need something snappy. I don't care what it is. Just juice, soda, doesn't matter.
All right,
yes.
Britt, what's snappy right now in NFL headlines? Let's figure out what's going on here. All right.
Well, guys, Javonte Williams, quote, expects to be ready for training camp. Are we buying into this after his interview that was kind of non-committal? Coop, let's start with you.
So year after year, this happens. Just last year, it happened with J.K. Dobbins, where he said on his own Twitter, I'm ahead of schedule. I've been working out with the Lord. Everybody's going to be shocked at how good I am. And guess what? He wasn't ready. That's what happens a lot of times with these situations. I need to see these guys on the field now to even consider them. Like Breece Hall, we're worried about him. He's actually been out there running, moving around. There's two things that go with this. Even if you get on the field, one, you have to get back up to NFL caliber speed and strength, which you're not going to be. You can't even just do that in 1 month, right? The other one is the compensation injuries. When we saw it with a guy like Victor Cruz, where you have the patella tendon injury, he comes back, other leg, hamstring injuries, calf injuries. That's what happens a lot of times with these knee injuries too, is you have to think about how your body adjusts to it. We have data that shows that in the first year back, these guys oftentimes struggle. And in the second year, that's when they're back up to strength. Saquon Barkley, perfect example. So Javonte Williams, I need to see him out there pronto to even consider him this year.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of quotes in the in the ESPN article about it. The quotes actually from Javonte Williams. So apparently the plan is for him to be cleared before training camp. And he says he feels like he's ready to go. But then here we go. Then you look a little further into it, and here's the follow-up statement. It's just all about the evaluation, how the Broncos feel about it, Williams said. Just seeing how I feel, moving, just trying to get my speed back to normal, things like that. So, yeah, it does not sound like, I mean, training camp starts what, in less than 2 weeks from now? Is that where we're at?
Yeah,
So,
it's
I
coming
don't
up.
know. I
The
mean,
first one's the
maybe he comes
23rd.
I mean, if he comes back in early, even just let's just say early August, is that enough time for Javonte Williams to be, up to speed here? And I'll throw this to Britt because it's Britt's fault that I drafted Samaje Perine in the 10th round of my Scott Fishbowl draft. I'm like hearing her chirp, 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 chirp in my ear about Samaje Perine. He's a sleeper. It says in the draft guide. Don't worry, Coop. I've got some picks in there that are your fault too. But I mean, listen, because I'm not going to win Scott Fishbowl, and I can accept that, right? But I'm going to blame somebody. I'm going to have people to blame. So I'm going to blame Britt for my Samaje Perine pick now.
Well,
I think that's fair.
I mean, you can blame me all you want, but the data shows even if you are healthy and can play a full season, the efficiency of your yards per carry in year one coming back from an ACL versus year two, aside from those like Wolverines, like Adrian Peterson, it's down almost a full yard in year one versus year two. So I don't really care if he's back on the field. I don't think his efficiency is going to be there. And I think they're going to work him in slowly. And Perine's going to have a humongous role in this offense, even when Williams comes back, because not only did he tear his ACL, he tore his MCL and his PLC. That is a humongous injury.
And the numbers are different.
Also, the way that the article was worded and headlined, it was the most clickbaity article that I've ever seen.
Wait,
because you
what?
actually get in there, right? Not in off season, no way, never. And you actually get in there and like you read some excerpts, Howard. You get into there and you read what they're actually saying, and it's like, oh, that headline was a little misleading, but yeah. So we'll have to see how that happens. But
the last quote in the article is Javonte Williams saying, I don't want to get back on the field playing scared or timid. So when I do get back out there, I want to be 100%. That's what he says. So he says he's not going out there until he's fully 100%. That is, if you want him to go out there and play and then ramp his way up to where he's 100% and get as much fantasy value as you can, he said in that article that that's not going to happen, that he's going to wait until he is 100% and confident, and who knows when that could be. It might not be right away.
Very convenient how the headline glossed over that little
good headline.
Go figure.
Good job,
all right,
Yahoo.
so we're still in on Samaje Perine then. Britt, what else is going on in the news today?
In another player saying that he will be ready for training camp, we have Darnell Mooney telling Bears fans to, quote, get ready to win. He is tired of losing and is just ready to win. I would be ready to win too if I had been on a Bears team that's consistently been a loser and had top 5 picks. Do you think that there is something to this after Mooney gets to move back to that wide receiver 2 role? Or do you think he's just kind of propping stuff up? Howard, what do you think?
I mean, he says he's feeling good, right? That's the direct quote. I'm feeling good. I'm ready to roll. So, I mean, what could possibly go wrong there? Here's the thing, though. Like, I mean, I think Mooney is a very talented receiver. I really do. I think, I thought people last year were giving up on him too quickly because he was struggling in the beginning of the season. So, I'm perfectly fine drafting him in later rounds. Just get on the field. Just get on the field. Let me see that. Anything that he says beforehand, don't care.
And with these broken ankles, you got to look up. You have to look what it is, because we think broken ankle, it's like a broken arm where it just heals and then you're good. His broken ankle was actually a high ankle sprain that was so bad that his fibula broke. That is not good. He had to have the tightrope surgery that you have on the high ankle sprain. So, and in the quote in the article, he says that he's running, but he just started cutting just now. So we have to see how that goes. For now, he's got the yellow tape around him for me. Do not draft zone. If we get to August and everyone says he's a full go, then maybe. But we also have to remember, he says this team's going to win. This Bears team was a tie away from being the worst team in the league, right? They had or no, they were the worst team in the league. They had the first pick, right? Like this team, the Texans were the one that had the tie that kept them.
Mhm.
So yeah, they were the worst team in the league last year, threw the fewest amount of passes. I don't know if they're going to jump right from being the worst team in the league that was running like leather helmet, triple option style football to all of a sudden supporting DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet and all these other guys. So I don't know. I'm a little worried for Moondog for fantasy personally.
And I will say I'm not a doctor, but as somebody who has experienced ankle sprains over the past however many years, I still cannot wear high heels without it making my ankle uncomfortable. So I cannot imagine being out on a field and trying to run and cut and make all of these football moves that soon removed from an ankle injury. So yeah, it's definitely something to watch. In other news, reports surfaced that the LA Rams, quote, feverishly tried to trade Matthew Stafford in the offseason. Do you think it's a salary cap issue, or is there something else that we're not seeing? And if so, does this make you concerned about Cooper Kupp's fantasy football value? Coop, we'll go with you.
Feverishly, Howard.
Feverishly.
That's like the two slamming different phones. He's got two, like a whole table full of phones ringing. Right? Like he wants them, take them. Yeah. No, I don't know, man. Yeah. My confidence level in what the Rams are doing over there is not high. Just because if this guy was as healthy as he says he was, he came out and said him and Cooper Kupp have been playing tennis all off season. His elbow's fine, but I haven't seen him throw, and the team is that's the perfect comeback when they're worried about you having tennis elbow, and you just come and say, "I've been playing tennis all off season," right? Like,
Britt's gonna give herself a migraine. She's rolling her eyes so hard right now. She's gonna start looking like Little Orphan Annie in the comic strips with like no pupils. It's just whites in the eye.
Right. And here's the other part of it is that when you look at what this team did this offseason and the comments the GM has made. You're trading away Allen Robinson, you're letting other players poach your players, and then you're making this comment of like, oh, we have a core group of guys that includes Cooper Kupp. Those guys aren't being traded. That doesn't sound like a guy who thinks they're going to win this year. That sounds like a guy that's doing a bridge year, taking a year off, hopefully getting the quarterback back to healthy, and then coming back to compete. So I'm staying away from all Rams bets. Cooper Kupp is obviously his ceiling is the best wide receiver in fantasy football, but you need a healthy Stafford to have that. So I'm just not taking him where we normally would. Like if Matt Stafford was fully healthy, where would we take Cooper Kupp? Wide receiver 2, 1?
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
Right. So I don't know. For me, I got the brakes firmly down here. I'm not going Deb mode where it's all gas, no brakes, Howard. I got the brakes.
No, I mean, I think we've seen that. I think what we've witnessed here is that, what you should see from most teams who are like go for broke, mortgage the future, come in, win a Super Bowl, get all of that money. Your fan base is totally cool. Like, I mean, yes, your fan base is like, no, run it back with the same guys, And you saw that to a certain extent happen with the Rams. But now it's like, listen, now we couldn't run it back. We weren't winning back-to-back Super Bowls. It's one of the hardest things to do in the modern era right now. And the bottom line is that the Rams need to recoup a ton of draft capital. They need to just kind of, cut down that salary cap so they'll be able to, deal with free agents and things like that. So I think, if the right deal came along, I think they would have been fine trading Matthew Stafford and just sort of, oh, well, that's the way it goes. We had to get some value for him anyway. I think that this is a team that is going to probably try to build around now Stetson Bennett and see what happens, in the future.
That's exactly what I was going to ask as a follow-up. If Stafford struggles, do you think that Stetson Bennett comes in?
Not this year. No, I think Stetson Bennett will learn as a backup. He'll hold that clipboard, which I think is necessary for most, if not all, young quarterbacks. I think you need to hold a clipboard unless you're like, you have game-changing talent. Like, if you're a Peyton Manning, type guy, then, you can be in there. But other than that, I think that you should, hold that clipboard and learn. And I think that that's, kind of where they're at right now, because I mean, I think that, what they can do is they've got weapons who are all aging right now, and they're going to want to kind of pitch them off. You're going to want to get rid of Cooper Kupp. You're going to want to get rid of Tyler Higbee. Recover all of that, as much draft capital as you possibly can, and your fan base will just, they'll tolerate it because you've just won a Super Bowl.
Right, and that's the thing with the rookies is that even Peyton Manning, he threw 28 picks as a rookie. So like no one, it's very difficult to just come out and be that dude immediately as a rookie. So I'm with you on that, and I don't think Matthew Stafford can be benched at this stage unless he's hurt. If he's hurt, then he's out. And, if it's his elbow or whatever, he has to have Tommy John or whatever the rumors are on that. Then you bring in the backup. But I don't think they would straight up say that you're benched. I don't think that's part of the MO with a guy that just won the Super Bowl the year before last. He's either hurt or he's the starter.
Well, to finish us off, you guys made very good points, both about rookie quarterbacks and draft capital. So I'm going to finish us off with this. Malik Willis, who was a third-round pick last year for the Titans, is now, quote, not a lock to make the Titans 53-man roster, despite the fact that the NFL has implemented rules that they can have a third quarterback as an exception. Does this sound off any alarm bells? Are the Titans tanking? What do you take away from the fact that they're going with Will Levis possibly over Malik Willis?
Coop, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with it. I don't think, I think Levis is probably profiles a little bit better as a NFL quarterback than Malik Willis does. I mean, let him go and be a journeyman and check things out. I just don't think Malik Willis's style really vibes with what the offensive scheme is that they want to run in Tennessee. So yeah, I think I'm okay with it. And and then it's easier to bring Will Levis along if it's just him and Tannehill. Like, you don't want to have it's not a tricycle, and you don't want, a disgruntled player feeling like he's just been left out. Just move on from him, I think, Coop.
Yeah, Elliot in the chat saying, I think they were tanking if they started Willis. I will say Willis did not look good last year. Had to get replaced by Joshua Dobbs off the street, who looked pretty good. And I was hearing early reports that Will Levis hadn't beat out Malik Willis yet. So maybe Levis isn't the guy. Maybe Tannehill's the guy we should be looking at in some superflex leagues. But if I'm Malik Willis and I do get cut, I'm going to my agent and I'm saying I'm making a list of the best mobile quarterbacks in the league because that's what his game was at Liberty. And I'm trying to find a spot on that roster where I can say, okay, I'm going to learn behind Jalen Hurts and try and be as good as Jalen Hurts, or I'm going to learn behind Lamar Jackson. And then after I've done that and, played in a couple preseason games, showing what I can do, now another team that wants to try and recreate that, I go there. So that's what I'm doing if I'm Malik Willis. Also, I just want to say real quick, Scott Fishbowl Day, shout out. We got Gary Hatto in the chat, a Scott Fishbowl champion himself.
Hello, cool. Gary.
Love your face too, Gary.
Gary, yeah.
All right, well, you know what? That's perfect transition into some Scott Fishbowl talk then, isn't it? Because, the NFL news that's breaking is always fantastic and it's always fun. But I think there was some breaking Scott Fishbowl news that went down over the weekend here that I don't think a lot of people know. Coop, talk to us about your you invading the DMs of the 1-4. Now, for those of you who don't know, or maybe you're not familiar with this, somebody always sets up a huge chat room for everybody who's got one of the picks. Number 4s are all hanging out together. Number 10s are all hanging out together. Coop, you picked 5th. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, I picked 5th.
You picked 5th, but you ended up in the 1-4 chat, and then they bounced you from it. Was it because of what you were saying, or was it because somebody was like, oh, crap, we got a spy?
So I know the guy who, because, every year someone sets it up, and I know the guy who set it up. So I just hit him up. And I was like, throw me in there. But it's funny that I got I got in there, and the first thing I said is, why can't I scroll up? Because when you get added, you can't look at the previous messages. So I was just going to scroll up, see what's going on in there within 5 minutes. Because Mike Fiella from my own league and Linda Godfrey, she picks at 104. Within 5 minutes, they were in there going, what is he doing in here? Get him out of there. They turned pretty quickly on me. And they started throwing fake takes in the chat while I was in there too. So I got to give it to them. The 104s, they got it locked down pretty tight. They're tight over there. They didn't give up any secrets. But yeah, That was pretty
Or-
funny popping in there.
Or Coop gets the award for worst spy ever.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
I
Like,
know.
why would you even chime in and be like, hey, why can't I scroll up here? I'd like lay low for a little while.
Yeah, maybe, well, right when somebody noticed it and was like, "Get him out of here," and I was like, "Who we liking that for?"
Oh, so you kind of brought it on yourself then.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna get away with it. And then those guys, like a bunch of people from that chat, and they've been doing this all year. They turned around and decided to just say on Twitter once a week at least that it's my birthday. So now I'm getting the DMs and stuff. Like again today, I'm getting DMs. People are like, "Happy birthday, man!" I'm like, "Dude, it's not my birthday for the 100th time this year. It's not my birthday." So they not only kicked me out, but they've also been pranking me with that, which is excellent.
So how does it feel like, Coop? You're sitting here now. You've got your live draft coming up this weekend. Everybody started today. I did my live draft yesterday. Britt was just like, "Oh, my draft's moving along smoothly. Everybody's making their pick on time." Like, you're getting all of this stuff here, Coop. What does this make you feel bad? Does this upset you at all? Are you jealous?
Is there anybody? I am jealous. That's why I tweeted out about the slow drafts. I was like, hey, enjoy your slow drafts, jerks, because everyone's drafting but me. And also, dude, I'm playing on an ultra hard mode because next Saturday, not only do I have to draft live with a bunch of Boston, killers, but all the ADPs gonna be out there, and my boss decided to publish my rankings for free so that anyone can have them. So I don't think anyone's going to have a more difficult draft than me this Saturday. But we, it's the whole idea of the Scott Fish Bowl is to give. So, giving away some free Scott Fish Bowl rankings, we're happy to do it. Right, Howard?
I'm very happy to do it. It was actually Britt's idea. She was like, let's just put Coop's rankings out there for free. Let's just do it. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm cool with that.
Everyone knows I have no creative control.
I didn't lie. I was out. That's why I was out during the show. So when I saw that, I hit up John and Pemba and I was like, dude, the rankings are free. I was like, put them in the guide. He's like, no, we're leaving them. I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Listen, there were at least, I would say 7 or 8 people in my draft who had your rankings, which became like the ultimate joke because you had Mike Evans in there, like, you had him in there twice. Not only did you have him in there twice, but you had him like it was like 2 players apart from each other. Yeah. It was like Mike Evans, some other
Jordan Love, and then Mike Evans.
Jordan Love, and then Mike Evans again.
Yeah, and so I had people texting me on that too.
I said, go wreck him on Twitter. I fully support that.
Yep. And so, also, right. Yeah. So what? PD Stitz hit me up.
Talking about these drafts, let's stop making fun of Coop. Coop, you can sit the next couple of plays out because you don't have a draft going on right now. I'll go to Britt. Britt, how's your draft going? I mean, aside from the fact that everybody's so good and moving nice and smoothly.
It is really great. And, we're a tight-knit crew. Everybody's been moving along. I'm picking from the 8th spot. And so Justin Herbert went at the 6th and Burrow was still out there. And I just held on to this hope of hopes that I was going to get Burrow at the 8th, but obviously that didn't happen. Got sniped right before me, but Trevor Lawrence was out there and I'm more than happy to take Trevor Lawrence at the 8th. Our draft has been very, very quarterback heavy. 8 quarterbacks have gone, 2 tight ends, and Justin Jefferson finally went at the 11. So our division of drafters has placed priority upon quarterbacks, and it's kind of knocked me around a little bit. I was like, oh, I'm going to get some value. I'm going to do this. Like, no, it's not happening for me. But did you find any value in your draft on Saturday at the live draft, Howard?
No, because I mean, we kind of went through the exact same thing. It was like Mahomes went first. Shout out to my darling wife for making that smart pick. Then it went Kelsey, Hurts, Allen, Burrow, Jackson, Fields, and Herbert. I was like, oh, okay. Wow, I'm definitely going to get, somebody tasty falling my way. So Jefferson went right before me. And then, so I was like, all right. So now I'm sitting here and I don't want to take McCaffrey because I just don't, I did that in another draft and it's like my only share and I don't want it. And I'm not big on Eckler, but Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, like AJ Brown. Like these were names that I was like, okay, I'm in on these guys. Even Mark Andrews was another name that I was kind of eyeballing. And so I had two guys, behind me, and I was like, all right, are they, could they go quarterback heavy because everybody went grab quarterbacks? Are they going to take the value that's here at, the running back spot? And so I was like, screw it. Like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I took Trevor Lawrence. So you and I are T-Law buddies. And then here's the funny thing. It went McCaffrey, Eckler, and then it went Andrews and Bijan Robinson, which left me Jamar Chase in the second round. And I was like, Jamar Chase is the 1-1 in redraft leagues for me this year. I'm not going to deviate away from that plan at all. So to end up with Trevor Lawrence and then Jamar Chase as well, I felt rock solid about that.
You got to have your cake and eat it too a little bit. Isn't that the best when you're debating between two guys and then one of them makes it back? That's one of the fantasy football good feelings there. And Britt, I will say, I pulled up your draft board. Because of all the QBs going early, the two teams at the end there, those are, I mean, how can you feel bad about these starts? These are the two teams at 11 and 12. The guy at 11 got Jefferson and Chase, and the guy at 12 got McCaffrey and Eckler. So
yeah. I knew there was going to be a lot of positional advantage. I haven't even seen that because when I got on the show, I'm on deck. So I might be making a pick.
Pick.
Oh, the 10th pick took Dak, which is a huge bummer. But you know what? I've got some plans up my sleeve. So we'll just have to see what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'll say this. I like that Jefferson Chase 1-2 punch more than I actually like the McCaffrey Eckler 1-2 punch.
I think I do as well. It's much less fragile, right? Like that's the whole point of the original. You go back and read Sean Siegel's original article. That was the whole point of the zero RB, is that running backs are so fragile that if you just avoid them as long as possible, you're going to save yourself that trouble. And CMC and McCaffrey, one of those guys go down, you're pretty much dust, right?
Well, and I think that the way that this draft shook out, I definitely could have taken like a Mark Andrews or Jefferson or anybody, but I'm so ingrained in that if the quarterbacks are going fast, I need to get a quarterback. But in this scoring system, that may not have been the smartest pick. I just went by what I normally do. But you can get some real value later on because there is no negative scoring. What ended you up with negative 14 points in years past is fine now. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these people end up who punt on quarterback early.
And for me, it was like, I mean, that was the thing. And, we're going to talk about drafting in a regular super flex league as well, because I mean, it holds for that as it does for this. And I'll ask you guys, like, how do you assuage that panic that you have? Like, damn it, all of a sudden, like you're looking at it, because here's what I did. So I did the live draft in San Francisco, by the way, and for anybody who doesn't know, and we all had an absolute blast. And today on the Sirius XM show, I've got 3 people who were right in a row in their draft, and they were like all 3 of them, like all draft long, where it was like Snipe City, and those trophy smack stickers about lucky bastard and stole my pick and world's poopiest draft or whatever it was like that. We're being like passed. I was like, slapping people that crew with stickers. So we're going to be talking about that more specifically. But, before we get into John's tiers that we're looking at as far as the quarterback ADP goes, like, how do you handle that sense of panic? Because in the third round, with the third round reversal, in my second round, no quarterbacks went into the last 2 picks.
I could just pull it up.
It was like 8 QBs. Oh, that's right. You guys can pull these up.
Yeah, I can just pull that up. There you go.
So there you go. So 8 QBs in that first round. Second round came and I took Chase. And then the next thing I know is like nobody took quarterbacks until Dak and Daniel Jones went at the last 2 picks.
That's so crazy, dude.
So when Deshaun Watson went, I was like, oh shit, here it comes. Like, this is going to be. Now, Dan McGonigal ended up taking Jonathan Taylor, which surprised me a little bit. But there I was. I was like, do I wait on QB or do I just take a guy now and do that? And had I known then what I see here on the board, I would have gone with, I mean, I would have gone with either not. I probably would have taken Tony Pollard, actually, truth be told, or Ramondre Stevenson. I would have taken one of those two guys as my third round pick, and then probably if Tua had, if I didn't take Tua and somebody else did, I run the chance of possibly being able to come in still with, like a decent QB instead of Miles Sanders being my RB1. It would have been either Pollard or Ramondre, and I would have ended up with a QB like a Geno Smith or a Jared Goff or possibly even Russell Wilson, just depending on, on how things fell. So, I guess I'll throw it to you guys. Would you have done the same thing as me, or did I make that mistake?
I would have done exactly what you did. I mean, because not only am I probably the highest person in the industry on Miles Sanders, but I love Tua. I think that the picks that were made, like Dak Prescott and Tua, for me, if someone takes one of those guys, I'm immediately taking the other. I think they're both in that caliber where they, the Vegas over-unders have them at like 4,000 yards. They both have two good wide receivers. I mean, obviously the Dolphins are loaded up, but now the Cowboys are too with Brandon Cooks. So I have no problem with either one of those guys. And I do have them above, like Russ, Geno, that group. I think I would rather have Tua and Sanders than Pollard and Geno. And another part of that is that there's still all these running backs floating around out there. And it scares me a little bit for Pollard that they're going to add one more. Mike McCarthy's talking so much about we're going to go back to smash mouth football. And we're going to run the ball like crazy. And then you have Pollard, who's coming off a broken leg from a high ankle sprain, just like Darnell Mooney is, and then Blake Davis and not a whole lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do add one more back, which isn't great for fantasy, but Britt, as a Cowboys fan, you'd probably feel a little better if they added one more back, right?
No, I really think that Zeke is coming back there. I think that they are letting him explore his chances in free agency, his options. And then I'm pretty sure that Jerry had a deal with him. Like, if you don't find a deal that's suitable for you, come back. Like, we'll pick you up. Because Pollard, while he's so good and so explosive outside, I don't know if he can handle the workload in between the tackles, and especially coming off an injury. So I don't think that I would have taken Pollard there. I think that I would have shored up my quarterback position just like you did, because last season I waited until round 4. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a great receiver and then a great running back. And I ended up with Matt Ryan, which at the time I was like, this is great. This is awesome. And it turned out to destroy me. So especially in a quarterback heavy start, like basically how you had and what's going on in my league, it's so hard to get a third quarterback. I would just rather get that second at least and then fill out from there.
Yeah. I'm kind of that's
you kind of got away with it, really, if you look at it, because you have two guys that could potentially be 3-down backs. Rashad White as well is a guy that, like, I love taking Miles Sanders, James Conner, Rashad White on these teams where they're not quite all in and competing to win. So I don't see teams like what would be the point of the Cardinals adding another veteran back right now? What would be the purpose of that? Like their over-unders like 4.5 wins for the season. Like they're not good. So that's the kind of team where I'm loving that. Same with the Bucks. They're not doing anything. Why would they add an older back just for a year? It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm loving that. And Deontay Johnson, I mean, the guy's never gotten less than 140 targets. It's so crazy that, like if he had caught 3 touchdowns instead of 0, where would he be going? It's crazy that we talk about this stuff all off season, and this league, the Scott Fish Bowl, is full of super sharp people, and still you can't make an easy adjustment for a guy like Deontay Johnson. So I actually really like your start here, and I'm interested to see what Deb's going to do. She's on the clock right now, huh?
Oh, is she on the clock? Good for her.
Yeah, she's
Speaking of on the clock.
Well, yeah, I'm waiting on Britt being on the clock. That's going to be a good live.
No,
pick.
I am right.
Oh, you are on the clock.
We got it.
That's what I said. Speaking of being on the clock.
Come on,
let's go. All right, walk us through it. Who are you thinking about?
Yep. Here, hang on. Wait, let me get in there with Coop.
Yeah, let's get the blades on. We're doing a live pick.
Come on, what do we got?
I've got Trevor Lawrence. Tyreek Hill is still available, as is Bijan. Stephon Diggs, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, AJ Brown, Deshaun Watson's out there. Lamb, Adams, and Garrett Wilson. Oh man.
Let the chat make the pick. I will.
Well, no.
Let the chat make the pick.
I think
I will. But I will say this.
I'm leaning towards Hill.
Okay,
I really am leaning towards Hill.
I like that pick a lot, and this is a little bit of a spoiler. It's a teaser to an article that's coming. Every year I do an article where I take the Vegas odds and I go through them for wide receivers, because with running back, there's a lot that goes into it. You can't just look at the rushing yards totals because there's receptions, there's all that. With wide receivers, it's basically just how many yards do you get, how many catches, how many touchdowns do you get, right? So I go through and I look and see where there are some discrepancies. And we go through the entire draft, so you got to check out the article. But at the very top, there's some interesting narratives where guys like Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, and Tyreek Hill, these guys are all set at 1,300 yards. Tyreek Hill's over-under of 1,300.5 yards is second only to Justin Jefferson. Mm-hmm. One name, A.J. Brown, who's being drafted up with those guys, his over-under is down to 1,050. So Vegas is sitting here telling us, yeah, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, good picks where they're going. And they're kind of saying A.J. Brown, maybe not as good of a pick. So kind of interesting. That article is going to come out, I think, next week. We're going to get that one in. We'll talk about it in full. But I like when you look at Tyreek Hill, he set at like 1,300 yards and like 10 touchdowns for his over-unders. That makes me really honestly confident in that player. Draft him and then bet the under. That's how you hedge your bets, right? If he gets hurt, then you make some money.
Coop, can you pull up Britt's draft board here so we can actually watch the pick be made live?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
So I'm in the Sonic division. If you can pull it up. But yeah, you can't see it, but I got my SFB Sonic shirt on right now. I think I'm gonna go Hill. I think I have to go Hill with him being there. I want to take Bijan, but I can't take a running back this high. So, and I want to take Lamb, but I don't.
Running back this high.
Interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's a very interesting phrase.
There it is. Okay. So
it's not that. It's that I feel like I'm drafting him in his ceiling because the only two rookies that we've seen have been Saquon finishing first overall and Zeke finishing second overall. So it just feels like if I take Bijan as the third running back, that's his ceiling. And that's what I'm talking about. I would be open to taking another running back, but yeah, I think I'm going Tyreek Hill.
No, you don't think you did.
Pick is in. Got it. Live pick.
Got it.
I mean, the thing is, he's so damn good, man. And he was incredible last year, despite Tua missing a bunch of games, man. Like he is, and we know that Mike White can at least get it out there. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like if anything happens, they didn't make plans. They did make plans. They have a sturdy backup now compared to last year when they were starting. Now I'm Skyler, right? What was his name? Skyler or something? Like ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, they're looking pretty good now. Tyreek Hill is about as safe as you can get.
And Hill only played 76% of the team's offensive snaps last year and still finished with 170 freaking targets. Like 76 snaps and 170 targets. Are you kidding me? Like,
he's a star.
The only thing that gave me a little pause on that is that, if he ends up getting suspended, but I don't
slapping a guy in the back of the neck and then offering him $20 to cover it up.
It's the bribery for me.
You gotta offer more than that. I think it's a lowball bribery. Dude, you're Tyreek Hill, dude. He's got $100 million contract, dude. Give a guy $100 at least, man. Come on.
Yes.
You gotta pull a Benjamin there. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Oh, here we go. I'm getting questions here from Scott Fishbowl people. Should we start airing their questions and stuff too?
There it is. Skylar Thompson was the name I was looking for there. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What do you got? What's coming in?
Well, I guess the question is Justin Fields fell to pick 10, him or Bijan Robinson?
Oh boy. I think I got to go Fields, man. 1,000 yards rushing, and they have to throw more. They can't throw. I mean, there's no chance they throw as little as they did last year. So Fields feeling pretty good there.
Yep. I know that the Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer in their entire existence, but that it doesn't mean that Fields still can't be good with his rushing upside. So I think that they're going to be fine. Fields is going to be good. And I would rather take him at this position than, like I said before, Bijan at his basic ceiling.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going to say, oh, and Gary Haddow in the chat says Fields too. So I'm going to tell him the crowd says Fields.
There it is. You got 3 analysts, the chat, and a former. Well, I guess once you're Scott, it's like president almost, Scott Fishbowl. Once you're the champion, you're a champion forever. I say so.
I'm Gary Haddow, and I was champion of Scott Fishbowl 3. I remember when Pepsi was a nickel too. It was amazing. What year did Gary win? Actually,
I think he won 9. Yeah.
Was it 9?
It was either 8 or 9. It was the year Darren Waller broke out because he waited on tight end, drafted 4 tight ends all in a row, bing bang boom, and he drafted Waller before Antonio Brown even got kicked off the team. So got crazy value there. That I remember looking at a team and talking to him about that on Lightning Round. So it was either Gary, let us know 8 or 9, one of those two. But so cool.
He says I still have Secret Service.
that's how it goes, dude.
Oh, Gary. All right, we're gonna put a pin in the Scott Fishbowl conversation right now because I want to also I want to get to John and Pemba's article and talk more about what we got. I also want to talk to you guys about the RT Sports Best Ball Championship. All right, you guys need to jump in on this one here. First and foremost, rtsports.com/alarm. Promo code alarm23 gets you 100% match up to $200. All right. But what you need to do is you go in, and then once you sign up and everything, you'll see things like their fantasy football championship, the best ball championship, the All-American championship, and even their pick'em contest, which I've been playing on the regular here. But let's talk here. Let's just say it. Fantasy football best ball championship. So you can compete for a grand prize of $25,000, and it's only $20 for your entrance fee. So if you put in 200 and then they match 200, $400 right there. That's a lot of best ball drafts that you could end up doing. So, again, enjoy the draft, get your best possible lineup set for you each week automatically. And there are live drafts every single night. So you can choose one that fits your schedule. Again, get our exclusive offer here, 100% deposit match up to $200 for first-time users, rtsports.com/alarm. Then use that promo code alarm23. Please play responsibly. And if you do need help or somebody who does, dial 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. So, quarterbacks are all the rage here. Let's do it. Let's bring it up here. Let's talk about John and Pemba's quarterback tiers. This is in the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide, which, again, you can get on its own by going to fantasyalarm.com/draft guide. They'll come with the cheat sheet. But what you also want to do is probably get the All-Pro subscription. That's the go-to move. And you get the draft guide and the cheat sheet already included, plus all of our sports content. And I'm talking about everything seasonal DFS across all the major sports. And then we do DFS, obviously, for MMA, NASCAR, PGA, all the side hustle sports you could possibly want. So, boom, do that. Let's start talking about John's article here with the tiers that he's got. And of course, we don't want to give everything away because this is a draft guide that we're selling, and we all got to feed our families, especially me. I'm so hungry right now. I'm so hungry. Buy the draft guide so I can go and get myself a sandwich, please.
You can have more beverage options.
That's right. You're drinking water over here.
Running low on this water, right? I'm just going to start spitting in this and then drinking my own spit. Don't flaunt your little lemonade
fancy
you're rocking over there.
Electrolyte water, yeah. Bougie water.
Bougie water. Bougie water. All right.
I will say with this article, I do love, because I personally, and I've said this time and time again, and I'm actually doing something about it. I hate linear rankings and linear thinking in fantasy football. If you're a Fantasy Alarm member, if you watch the show, if you hang out with us, then you're above that. You're beyond this idea of printing out a cheat sheet. It's good to have a cheat sheet to cross guys off, but you shouldn't be thinking about it linearly. You should be thinking about safety and upside and different profiles. So I love that with John, with his tiers, he took them and he broke them down into different types of players. So you can think about your format. Is it 4-point passing? Is it 6-point passing? Is it the Scott Fishbowl where there's no negative points for fumbles and interceptions, and Daniel Jones is actually a decent player versus being a really uninteresting real life player? So I'll bit my tongue a little even on that. But hey, he ran for 700 yards last year. So you got to think about it in that sense, right? Get to know who these people are and whether you want to take the risk or not. And that's what this article by John is great, because he breaks it down into tiers, but those tiers are categorized, right? So, I look at, I don't think we're giving anything away when I say the elite tier is the guys you think it is: Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And then from there, he breaks it out into mobile QBs, the young guns, the mid-round plays, the breakout potential guys, old faces, new places, last season surprises. Like, he's got it all. He's got it all in there. So I just wanted to say I love that he set it up that way, because I like that so much better than just, here's my list. How'd I do?
I got to be a little critical of the fact of his use of young guns as a tier header, that he's never seen the movie and had no idea what I was talking about when I referenced the movie on the Fantasy Alarm Show on Friday.
He hasn't seen anything, dude. He hasn't seen like Star Wars. John is just the worst.
I've never seen Young Guns.
Yeah, you can't make reference with John. He's just like, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings. I'm like, those movies won like every award, dude.
I'm like, oh, so who's Emilio Estevez and who's Charlie Sheen? He's like, what?
He's seen Mighty Ducks. That's probably what his first thought when you bring Emilio Estevez.
What a buffoon.
Yeah.
All right. So, we can kind of just go through these tiers here. I don't think we need to talk about Hurts, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Fields, even, because these guys are all top flight guys, and these are guys who we're always gonna want a piece of, without a doubt. When you get down to his young guns, which is actually below the mobile QBs, I find it very interesting. I don't really find it that interesting. I think it's true, but he's got Burrow, Lawrence, Justin Herbert right there. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that obviously none of them are going to move into the mobile QBs area. Does anybody have the potential of getting, although Trevor Lawrence can run a little bit.
Still
run a little bit.
Somebody pointed out, I didn't realize it, but I pulled up Justin Herbert's RAS score and his athletic ability. He's fast. He just doesn't do it though. So maybe Kellen Moore will introduce a little bit of that. But when you look at Herbert's athletic profile, he probably should be running a little more than he does. I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to keep him in the pocket. Joe Lombardi used to call in plays for guys like Drew Brees. But there's no reason Herbert can't scamper a little bit. And I see you in the chat, Mr. Scampers. Shout out.
Britt, you and I both have Trevor Lawrence. Can he move up at all?
Yeah, honestly, I think that Burrow, Herbert, and Lawrence should be above the mobile QBs tier, because we don't really know what Todd Monken's offense is going to look like. Sure, they say that they're going to throw more, but we haven't really seen that. And they have kind of some injury-prone receivers and then a rookie.
It's like communism. It looks great on paper, but let's put it into action.
I'm just going to gloss over that and say that Lamar has also been hurt over the past few seasons. And when he did finish as overall QB1, he did it with his rushing upside. We haven't really seen what he's been able to do as a pure passer. And I'm also honestly not so sure on Justin Fields. I kind of touched on that he had a great season with his rushing upside last season, but the Bears still don't and never have been a pass-heavy offense. There's also some significant questions on their offensive line, and I think that even though he'll be good in the future, I just worry a little bit about his overall upside, taking him over guys like Burrow, Herbert, and Lawrence.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, it's we all consider Burrow to be a better passer than Lamar Jackson. I believe he is. And if I had to pick one to throw more touchdown passes this year, I'd pick Joe Cool. But I just I'm in the 105 chat, and every once in a while I'll pop in and see what they're talking about. And I just throw a little wrench in there, because they were saying the same thing, and they're like, Joe Burrow, much better passer, blah blah. And I was like, Lamar Jackson threw for 36 touchdowns one year. What's the most that Joe Burrow has ever thrown for? And then I just walked away. Like, see you later.
You know they're not drafting against you. You're there in that chat to help them, Coop.
I am an agent of chaos. My rankings are out there for anyone. I can do whatever I want. So, but I did bump it. I was like, all right, see you guys later. Like, technically, Joe Burrow has never thrown for 36 touchdown passes. Though, of course, he's thrown for 35. But, you can't necessarily rule it out. And, Britt, that line of thinking is exactly why I like to look at these tiers as next to each other, right? Not here, but here, where you say, okay, in my format, like it's a 10-team league and it's 4-point passing and you only start one quarterback. In that format, give me the mobile guy because, like, everyone's going to have a good quarterback. You just want to shoot for the highest upside. In Superflex, where you have to start this guy every single week, and Scott Fishbowl 6-point passing, give me one of the young guns where I truly believe you can't go wrong with any one of Burrow, Lawrence, Herbert, right? They feel as safe as possible. Herbert now getting a new offensive coordinator that actually is going to throw the ball more than 5 yards downfield. So I feel good about any of them, but just think about what it is that you're drafting for. Like, what's the purpose?
Well, and that's a great point. 6-point passing touchdowns kind of negates the rushing upside that a lot of these quarterbacks have who are mobile, because the ones who are throwing typically get 4, the ones who are rushing get 6. Well, here it's even. So I want the guy who's going to have the most touchdowns, period. I don't really even care about the rushing upside. I want the guy who's going to throw and who's going to score touchdowns through the air.
Yep.
And so that evens it out a little bit.
So to your point, yeah, that's how you got to do it here. Although, if Lamar Jackson's there at 5, it's going to be tough for me to pass up on him just because the Todd Monken and all the craziness. I don't know. I'm going to fall for it, obviously, Britt. So that's what I'm saying.
So it's rushing, it's the banana in the tailpipe is what you're saying.
Rushing. I know I'm being hoodwinked, right? But I'm going to do it anyway. He gets hurt every single year. I don't care. Like, gives me an excuse. Yeah, he got hurt. So,
Britt, the banana in the tailpipe is there's an old movie from the 80s called Beverly Hills Cop. A young gentleman by the name of Eddie Murphy. It was a burgeoning career. He started off on Saturday Night Live and was doing stand-up, and then he took it to a whole nother level with Beverly Hills Cop. And there was a scene where he puts a banana in somebody's tailpipe, and
I thought that was just a cartoon.
Nope. Happened in reality. Sellers, if you're out there, Britt needs a movie education. Please introduce her to Beverly Hills Cop.
I was too busy working on the farm.
You're too busy working on the farm. I'm too busy. I'm slopping the pigs. I'm feeding the chickens. I can't watch them movies, them moving pictures of y'all got there.
Stuck behind the chicken truck.
Nothing but feathers coming at me left and right. Suddenly, is that the right accent, Britt?
Yeah.
No, but it's okay. You tried. It was a valiant effort.
Was it close?
Dustin pointing out today's edition of mansplaining things to Britt. Yeah. Usually we do that segment on the morning show. Today we
well, see, I don't need to see. That's the funny thing is, like, I don't need to mansplain things about sports to Britt.
Right.
Like I'm learning shit from Britt about sports. Like, that's to me. But like, if I got to mansplain classic movies, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to mansplain classic movies. That's just, we got to do it.
I'll accept it.
You'll allow it? I appreciate that.
I'll allow it.
I appreciate that.
Well, now that we've talked about the obvious and best quarterbacks in the league, let's get into some of these other tiers, right?
Let's dig a
little deeper. Yeah.
Where do you want to go?
Let's go. I don't know. So this next zone, it's like a big bunch. Like, I don't know, Britt, who do you like best? And I know it's kind of tougher, because you're in a draft now and people are maybe tuning into some of your content. But in this next group where it's like, okay, you got Dak, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Tua and Daniel Jones, or basically that's the game plan. You can go that crew, or you can go with the older guys, Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. I think after them, there's a bit of a tier break, but people seem to have their own opinion on that group of, it's what, 7 or so guys. So from that crew, Dak, Deshaun, Kirk, Tua, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr. Let's say all your boys are off the board. Which one of those guys are you taking? If you decide, like, hey, I got to take a QB here, which one do you like best?
Well, this is not me being a homer at all, but I think Dak gets so No, Dak gets so disrespected because he threw a ton of interceptions last year. But did you watch those games? There were so many of those balls that were tipped off the receiver's hands that went right into the D-back's arms. I mean, he was throwing dots. They were messing it up. They weren't completing the catches. And that was kind of a one-off with him. He never has had that kind of interception problem. He's always been pretty secure with the ball. And people overlook it as well, but before his ankle injury, they were doing designed runs for Dak. Dak has rushing upside too. And I think with Zeke being gone, that they could incorporate that back into his kind of playbook this year. And just for reference, he went in the early second in my division. So somebody in my division thinks the same thing about Dak. I would put him up there. Honestly, let me pull these tiers up again because my mind is mush right now. I think I would put him, I know he's not a quote young gun, but I would put him in that tier with those guys, especially with, bringing over a bona fide wide receiver too. I think that he can do it.
So you make a good point with Dak that before he broke his ankle, he started his career with 6 rushing touchdowns in each of the first 3 years. So we know he's capable of it, right? And it's like, it's not like
we know he was capable of it.
No, he is.
It's not like he's like 35 though. I mean,
what are you talking about? I mean, you don't know whether the ankle needs a clean out procedure. There's a reason he's not running right now, and it wasn't just because they had Zeke there.
I think because they were scared. He had a cleanup procedure, and I think that it was more mental than it was physical.
Mental cleanup, Howard. That's what he needed.
He needs a mental cleanup.
The mental and physical cleanup of the ankle. That you know what because what are we talking about? There's only so many quarterbacks that are going to run for 700 yards, right? He's probably not going to do that, but 300 puts you in that group, and I think I will stamp that he's capable of 300 rushing yards.
See, now I want a song parody from Britt about Dak Prescott's rushing upside. We'll call it Now That Zeke's Gone, and we'll do it to Kelly Clarkson, Since You've Been Gone.
Oh, my vocals cannot
come
do
on
that anymore.
Don't lie to us.
No,
we were all with you. We were all with you. Was it in Cleveland where we were there and Britt was singing in the bar? Come on.
Let's do a movie. It'll be where we go back in time. We us three and Dak, we go back in time and we make sure he doesn't hurt the ankle, and we'll call the movie Dak to the Future.
That was my fantasy football name for the longest time.
Was it?
See,
yeah, and I won with that name.
Oh, see now the Cowboys homerism's coming out even more, and there we go.
And we don't even have a Cowboys counter on this show.
Your pick from
really
that group.
should.
Your pick from that group: Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Tua, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr. You got to pick one.
Well,
right
I
now.
mean, I already showed you my hand there where I took Tua. Although I probably had Deshaun Watson been there instead of Tua, I would have taken Deshaun. He went 2 picks right before me. Listen, that's a guy who still has rushing upside. That's a guy who can extend plays with his leg. That's a guy who's not afraid to get hit. So
that's kind of a problem, though.
What's that?
Well, that's been a bit of a problem for him. Then not being afraid to get hit for Tua that hasn't worked out so well for him recently. He probably should be afraid.
No, he's talking about Deshaun Watson.
Oh, Deshaun Watson. Oh, yeah, Tua. Okay,
I'm talking about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about.
I was gonna say. I was like, Deshaun's
Tua
got a whole mess of other problems that we don't even want to talk about here.
But no, you're right. You're right. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Tua. I was like, not afraid to get hit.
Running around and extending plays with his legs is something that Deshaun Watson does, and he's not afraid to do it, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And I think that, the time off and the rust and everything that we saw last year, and now what we're looking at here is he is there. It is the system is in place in Cleveland. He's got a fantastic supportive ground game behind him and Nick Chubb. He's got the weapons to throw to. So I like Deshaun in that realm, and I probably would have taken Deshaun over Tua just simply for the injury aspect of it. Like that's, yes, Cleveland's got its own stank, but that's where I would have gone. What about you, Coop? Who would you take out of that group?
It's just, I have the same answer. It's Deshaun Watson, man. And it's just because when healthy, or when before all these issues, he was a top 5 quarterback every single time he was playing. And he was the rare guy his rookie year where he came out and was amazing right from the rip. Remember how he exploded onto the scene and was crushing. And then since then, he never really went back in the bottle. Even when that team won 4 games, he threw for 4,800 yards and 33 touchdowns and only 7 picks. How is that possible? How could the quarterback be so good and the team so bad? Well, the answer is probably Bill O'Brien and the Texans, but like this is a guy that if he just has a normal offseason and comes out with the weapons they have, man, he could easily be in that top group. So yeah, Deshaun is a guy that I would love to get him in the second round of this Scott Fish Bowl. Love that.
All right. Okay. So that's where we're at there with that tier. Do we want to, do you have something, any kind of a specific comment about any of these lower tiered players, the Jared Goffs, the Geno Smiths, the Russell Wilsons? I love the fact that he puts in for the quarterback rookie class here, and all he's got is Anthony Richardson. He completely ignores CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. But you know,
He's smart. I think that's a smart way to handle it, to be honest, though, because in Superflex or single QB, I don't know if those guys are cutting it, especially CJ Stroud. That team is
yeah, those guys. Yeah, I'm not talking single. You know,
yeah.
No,
Anthony Richardson, that's the guy you want if you're going to do it. And honestly, in the Scott Fish Bowl, I see him slide in some places. The teams like in your league, for instance, Howard, the teams that are starting off like with 2 wide receivers or 2 running backs and then cobbling together quarterback later, I don't feel so bad about the ones where they do get an Anthony Richardson and give themselves a chance at big time upside.
Yeah, I think people are kind of overlooking him. And I will be the first to go on record and say that during the scouting process that I was not high on Richardson, but seeing him and hearing what he's doing with Shane Steichen and all the other receivers out there, I'll admit that I might have been wrong. I mean, we've got to wait till training camp, but
yeah, I was gonna say, you getting a little hooked in by the coach speak there.
I don't think so. I've just thought about it a little bit more and looking at his props and then looking what he did in college.
Mm-hmm.
I think that overall Vegas is too low on him.
Yeah, I will say this for Anthony Richardson, that we have to remember that a guy like Josh Allen, people didn't like him when he was picked. They didn't like that pick. They pointed at his tape and they pointed at the record at the school he went and his stats, and they were like, this guy's inaccurate and he's never going to be a passer, and he's basically just this raw talent, physical presence. And for the first year, his completion percentage was like 50%, and that talk kept going. And look at him now. So you have to understand with a guy like Anthony Richardson that when you see the combine and it's completely off the charts in every category, that these teams are looking at it and saying, hey, we're going to turn this guy into what he's going to become. So it's kind of hard to sit there and be like, okay, well, I didn't like his stats or I didn't like his tape at Florida, because Florida's trying to do something totally different. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to run their offense, gimmicky, do whatever they got to do to win that league. In this league, if the talent evaluators think he's the 4th best player in the draft, then I'm at least interested. So got to throw your body. At a certain point, we got to throw our preconceived notions out the window a little bit. If he fell like Malik Willis did to the 3rd round, then that's when I would say, oh, everything we thought is true. But if someone's willing to take that shot, I'm willing to take the shot, because I got a little bit less riding on it than the entire front office of the Colts.
All right. Well, I mean, let's talk draft strategy then for QBs. I think it's a nice way to kind of move over to it. Let's push the Scott Fish Bowl draft aside. Let's push the super flex stuff to the side for right now. Let's just focus on single QB draft strategies and how we want to go about it. I mean, is the quarterback position the most important position in fantasy football?
Such a loaded question. Britt, why don't you answer that one?
So I'm just going to flat out go say no. There's not nearly as much positional scarcity as there is for other positions. And even a quote bad quarterback can get you more points than pretty much anybody else from week to week, depending on your scoring settings. I unfortunately lost a championship game because the guy that I was playing against lost his quarterback in week 16, outbid us on Nick Foles, and beat us with Nick Foles putting up 40-something points. Nick freaking Foles. won him a
Hate to see it.
championship.
Nick Foles
I
is
mean,
just a legend.
as long as they're not completely trash, I think from week to week, you can make it with an average quarterback. And if you kind of punt quarterback, then just draft 2 and play him in a matchup based situation. I don't think that they are nearly as important as we're led to believe, looking at just a flat stat line.
Now, what I will say is this. Quarterback is the most important position to know your league. And I'm not talking about the format. I'm talking about who you're drafting with. That's the position where knowing if you can go back and look at what the people in your league have done in previous years, that's where that position is so important. Because in some leagues, guys will wait forever. In some leagues, they go early. In some leagues, everybody's taking 2. And that changes how you need to handle the position drastically, right? Like if you know everyone waits in your league, then you can wait and get a guy. Like so that's where knowing who you're playing with is actually kind of crucial for this position. Because with Britt's strategy of taking 2, in some leagues everybody takes 2. Some leagues the rules say you have to take 2. So that I think it's the position where knowing the tendency of your league and what they do is so important with this. And I will say that for me personally, when I look around, there are so many guys that I am comfortable taking that I don't mind waiting and taking Burrow, Herbert, whoever's in that range there. I'm probably not going to take 2 this year unless Anthony Richardson's the only guy where I would go do like a yin yang type thing. But for the most part, this year I'm looking to just take 1. And also, too many times I've seen out there people that only add running backs and wide receivers off waivers. And those, they never add a tight end, they never add a quarterback, they never add a defense. Those are the guys that always come in 3rd place. Just keep in mind that you have to continue trying to make your team better at every position. So don't just coast with a mediocre quarterback. Always be trying to hit breakouts or upgrade those positions. So that's my advice.
I mean, usually what I do as far as like in single QB, I mean, because I guess the real question is when you're going into your draft, we constantly tell everybody you got to be fluid, you got to be fluid. But let's face facts. When it comes to the quarterback position, if you want an elite, you want a Hurts, you want a Burrow, you want an Allen or a Mahomes, you got to do it early. You got to do it earlier than some people would like to do the quarterback position. I think like that's. I think when you're making that determination, then you're really kind of setting up sort of what your draft plan is in some sort of a way. Like if you just turn around and you say, I don't give a shit who the names are. I'm just going to take best player available and see, let the draft come to me. Then okay, fine. But if you're like, I need to make sure, because I mean, how many times did people tell you, oh, well, look at the championship teams. They either had Mahomes or they had Allen, or whatever the case may be. Well, no, it wasn't Allen and Burrow because that game being canceled ruined everybody's fantasy season. But when I look at that, because I feel like we tell everybody you got to be fluid with it, but if you want one of those high-end elite quarterbacks, you're basically setting up your draft plan to say that, all right, well, first round, whoever, second round, depending on where I'm drafting, I might have to look at taking a QB early. Like if you want Mahomes or if you want Hurts, chances and you're picking at the back end of your draft, if you're that locked in on him, chances are you're probably taking him in the second round at that point because you're not going to know. You're probably doubting that, and based on ADP, where these guys are going to come back around to you even in the 3rd.
That's such an interesting point because I never really thought of that, but it is kind of the one position where you're going to make that decision ahead of time, right? Like you're kind of going to be that guy or you're not going to be that guy. So that is interesting because I never really thought of it that way of like, am I going to be a quarterback guy or not? But you almost have to. And everyone kind of has because in 1 QB leagues, no one's going in the first round. You kind of have the luxury of being that guy if you want to be in any draft. Yeah.
And that's why it's, again, so important to know the league that you're drafting in, especially in your home leagues. Know what picks your boys or girls are looking at so that way you're not like reaching too much. You're not waiting too long, because I've been guilty of it before where I've been like, oh, this player's going to fall. There's no way that somebody's taking him like this high, and somebody will take him 2 rounds above ADP because it's It's just their guy. Treylon Burks, for example, any draft that you draft in a home league in Arkansas, he's going at least 2 rounds above ADP. So just know the people that you're drafting with and know their preferences, and that'll give you a lot better idea of how to plan your strategy when you get into these things.
I'm willing to bet that it's not just reserved for drafts in Arkansas. I think any draft that involves Britt Flett. Or probably Sellers too. Sellers is a pretty big Treylon Burks guy as well. So
yeah, Rick Wolf sniped me in the Colton and the Wolfman RT Sports draft, best ball draft that we're doing. I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning and I was on the clock, and Rick Wolf had taken Treylon Burks right in front of me. So pretty disappointed and upset.
Do you want to? I mean, listen, we have the ability to cut audio and video and post it all over YouTube and everywhere. Britt, is there something specific that you want to say to Rick Wolf for sniping Treylon Burks from you?
I want to say congratulations, and I hope you're happy.
Wolfman, I hope you get the mange.
That's right.
Because I am very sad. Yeah. I hope my sadness makes you happy.
Rick Wolf just sitting at home, like sipping a little thing of Arkansas tears, just a little Chardonnay glass. Yeah, in my hometown,
copper mug.
The tears. Yeah, he'll be drinking at the New York Scott Fishbowl draft. At their party, they're gonna have a Razorback tear punch bowl there. I heard. In my hometown league that we've been doing for 20 years with my buddies, not only would that happen with Tom Brady, but every year we do the draft live and we stop the draft and there's a quick standing ovation once Tom Brady gets picked. And then we come back to drafting. So there's like extra incentive, like to just, the moment he goes off the board, everyone, yeah. And then we go back to work. So it's not just Treylon Burks. It happens all the time.
Which again is why it's so important to know the people who you're drafting with.
That's right.
Always. That was and I'll tell you what, that's the best part about a live draft, because you definitely get a better feel for people. And shout out to McGonigal in the chat right now, who is not only at the draft, but he was in the Buena Vista division with me and picking 11th. So
I looked at his team. It's good. He started off crazy, right? It's CMC, Bijan and Jonathan Taylor. That's a robust RB room right there.
Yeah, it was. Listen, it was great. I love the strategy. You know me. You guys know me. I'm definitely a big Bijan Robinson fan. I was very happy to get Jamar Chase in there with that pick. But when you sit there and you're talking to people and you're just kind of you're always pulling a little bit of information. I'll like sit there and I'll joke around with people. I was doing interviews like during the lunch break, and I was like, yeah, okay. Who's your favorite team? Who's your favorite player? Which pick got, did you get sniped on the most and all of that, and I'll tell you flat out. I mean, I was definitely, if it was somebody who was in my division, I was definitely kind of thinking about that as far as like how the rest of the draft is going to go. You need to be able to do that. You need to know, that's why I love making spike picks all the time, just because I know it puts people on tilt.
It does. And then that makes them say, oh man, he took my guy here. Now I got to go reach my other guy to make sure I get some of my guys.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Man, the thing with McGonigal's team, if he wins this tournament, we're all going to look at that team and go, obviously, right? Like if he wins with that team.
Dude, all the zero RB truthers are going to be like, yeah.
In the streets crying, like, yeah, but that team, if it wins, it's like you look at it and you're like, oh, well, of course he won, right? So pretty funny.
So let's wrap up our single QB league draft strategy talk here, because I am just kind of curious for you guys, and let's talk about this like it's your home league, it's your favorite league, whatever whatever. This is the league that means the most to you. Single QB league. Are you of that mindset of I want the elite QBs, or I'm going to be perfectly happy sitting there with Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers as my QB? Britt, all right, it doesn't have to be either one of those two.
You're taking it to extremes right there, but
she's like, I'll just wait for Dak.
I mean, you know what? I will, except I draft with a lot of other Cowboys fans in my most favorite home league, so it never works out that way. But I think that I typically like to wait until kind of the middle. I want to get a stud receiver or two. I want to get my anchor. I typically want to fill out my quarterback spot in rounds 5 to 7 because aside from that elite tier, there's not a bunch of differentiation between these guys in the middle tiers. And even if you go with like a lower upside guy, I'm fine with taking another guy to play matchups off of. Um, it feels so rich to take a quarterback that early when there's so much value on receiver and on running backs, and then everything just kind of falls off. So, um, if I can get, I'm not going to say Trevor Lawrence again just because I drafted Trevor Lawrence today, but here we go again. If I can get a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Herbert or a Dak in those middle rounds, like I'm totally fine with it.
Which is like 9 guys or so, right? Like there are about 9 guys where I'm very comfortable getting them.
Mhm.
What I hate is when I take a quarterback that, and this might just be a personal bias, but I hate when I take a quarterback that I should be starting every week because it's so that I don't truly believe in, because it's so hard to actually pivot off those guys and go to waivers and admit that maybe I should be adding Jared Goff or Geno Smith or one of these guys. You end up in like this like dead zone, like quarterback zombie mode, where I'm like, oh well, I have to start Aaron Rodgers because I paid for him, but he's not playing that well, right? Or Tom Brady or whoever for a long time there. So I really don't like taking guys that like Aaron Rodgers and honestly this year now like Kirk Cousins, like those guys where the upside isn't great and any given week you feel like you have to start them. I don't like taking guys in that range. That's why for me I cut it off at like 8 guys that I really like, and if I don't get those guys, then I'm willing to just go with crazy upside with like an Anthony Richardson or something, knowing that I can always drop them and add somebody off waivers. That's kind of the way I play it. So, but this year, for the most part, I am ending up with like Justin Herbert because I truly believe that if he could be third in the league in passing yards last year with the low ADOT system, this year he could lead this league in passing yards. I'm putting a little money on him to lead the league betting wise, and I'm taking him in a lot of leagues. So that's what I'm doing. What about you, Howard? What do you do in your hometown league? 12 teams, 1 QB for all the marbles, for all the bragging rights.
I'm kind of in that same spot as well. Like, if I'm looking at the tiers from John, I'm looking at guys like, because I feel like Lawrence, Herbert, Deshaun Watson, like those guys are the guys who are kind of, they're not, it's not that they're slipping, it's just that they aren't people's top priority, like people who want Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, even to a certain extent, the Justin Fields truthers out there. Like they are hell bent on getting that player, and I don't need to fight with that. During the course of the season or the course of the draft, I believe that yes, I'll grab a Deshaun or a Trevor Lawrence, and then I'll take one of those higher upside guys who might pan out. Like I don't even know, I mean, Anthony Richardson's definitely a possibility, but, I might even just kind of look to somebody who's a little bit safer and say, well, you know what, screw it. I'll take a Jared Goff or a Geno Smith. I don't love these guys, but they're my second QB. Hopefully I don't have to use them for more than just the bye week and then just kind of move on there. But, for me, it's a lot about what the rest of the room is doing. If the rest of the room is not taking second QBs, well, why bother? Like I've been in drafts where it's like, nobody is taking a second QB, or like maybe 1 or 2 out of the 12 teams is taking a second QB. And I'm like, well, if you're going to leave all of that value sitting out on the waiver wire, then I'll just load up with running backs and wide receivers here as well. And then just, if I've got like a first cut or something like that, but right before the season starts, I can dump that person and just grab another QB if I want to. So
yes, and you're
kind
also
of in that realm.
You're also competing with a lot fewer guys. It's not like tight end where somebody's got Kelsey and a lot of guys are scrapping. Like say you're in a 10-team league. Think about this: if you do that and you wait and say I'll just grab guys off waivers, the guys that drafted Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, they're not thinking about quarterback again. Lamar Jackson, all these guys, they're not thinking, like you're not competing with them to add the hot waiver wire pick because in what world are they going to add that person? Bye weeks don't start till week 6 at the earliest. So they're not even thinking about it. It's not even on their radar, which makes that ad so much easier especially in those shallow leagues. Like you can just, you have your pick of the litter.
Now, Superflex draft strategy, light years different.
Yeah.
Light years different. Look at Britt's like, because yeah, Britt's like, Britt, are you're gonna take a quick QB with your 3rd round pick, aren't you?
Well, we got a quick question in the chat for Superflex.
Let's do it.
Shout out from our buddy Joel Cox. I think he wants a little bit more of a just a bit of a grade the work he did here. He went Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson for his first 2 picks in the Scott Fish Bowl. Is that too rich for Anthony Richardson? Maybe, but upside the league, charity fund. Passed on Watson and Tua, knowing those would be safer picks. Anthony Richardson in the 2nd round in a giant tournament like this, where there is some merit to having a unique build. I don't know, Britt, is that too rich for you? Is that a little too crazy?
I would say that it's a little too rich for a rich, but again, like you mentioned, in a tournament like this, having a different build is what sets you apart from the other 3,500 people in this tournament. And if he is as good of an athlete as everybody says he is, if Shane Steichen is as good of a coach as everybody says he is, if he can develop this guy as fast as they think he can, then I see nothing wrong with that pick.
See, for me, I look at it. Okay, Lamar, definitely. For your 2nd pick, you're looking for that upside of Anthony Richardson. I would have gone Watson. I might have. No, I probably wouldn't have. I would have gone Watson for sure there, just because if you go Tua, you still run that risk, and then it's like, is he going to get hurt? Is he not going to get hurt? Do I handcuff him with Mike White? If I handcuff him with Mike White, am I taking 4 quarterbacks now? Am I kind of leaning in that direction there? I think that as your 2nd quarterback in a super flex league, I think you still want, you want some upside, but I'd take the, I'm more about the proven guy in the NFL. Like Watson has the NFL resume that Anthony Richardson doesn't have. So, for a 3rd QB, I wouldn't have minded taking Anthony Richardson high, not 2nd round, obviously, because that would be number 2. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I would have grabbed Anthony Richardson more in like the 5th or 6th round if he were available after taking my 2 stable QBs. I don't hate the move, Joel, but right. I don't necessarily know if it's the one I would have made.
Right. Well, that's the thing too, is that if I was picking at like 1, so I did see in one of the London drafts, Lamar Jackson went at 1. So maybe Joel is picking at 1 or 2 or 3, but more likely when you're taking Lamar Jackson, you're probably picking at 5 or 6 or so. And you have a much better shot at getting Anthony Richardson if he's your guy later on. That's the thing. If you're picking at 1 and then, you pick at 212 and a bunch of guys are gone and 3rd round reversal is about to make you pay, then maybe you do have to reach for a guy like that. But, I probably wouldn't have done it. At the same time, though, it's, again, like you said, charity tournament. You got to get your guys. Richardson might not have made it back to you. So sometimes you just got to make your moves. And if it pays off, you're going to look like a genius. That's the other part of it. People are going to, if you win this, Joel Cox from CBS picked Anthony Richardson in the 2nd round, and he's the champion. And then you get the Secret Service following you around like Gary had out forever. So so you got to just make your moves, dude.
That's the thing. Like that, and this is the league to do that in. This is the league to have some fun with it, right? Not like, Tommy Roush just busting on deck for no good reason, kind of fun, but like just fun that, I'm going to go after my guys. I'm going to get my guys and whoever they are. All right. So some questions here about Superflex draft strategy that I think obviously everybody asks, but nobody really gets that kind of a definitive answer. Does draft position matter more here in a Superflex league than it does in single QB leagues? And I'm not even just talking about the 3rd round reversal. I'm talking about just in general where you're picking based on what we've seen as far as ADP goes for QBs.
Yeah, for me, I took 5 in the Scott Fish Bowl specifically because anyone that's never done one of these leagues before, if you miss with your number 1 quarterback, then you feel like you are drowning. Like anyone that's ever been in that position where you don't have any quarterbacks in Superflex, and not only do you need to start one every single week, but the bye week starts showing up. You're supposed to be starting two. Like the panic that sets in when one year I drafted Cam Newton and Matt Stafford, and they both got hurt, and just trying to get through that season was pain. It was a great deal of pain. So for me, I personally almost always go as early as possible, and I take a quarterback. And because when you have one quarterback that you can feel good about, that you're slotted, that's in there, then it's not so bad to scrap for that second guy and to get through the bye weeks. But when you have no quarterbacks, man, it gets ugly so fast. You're just done. So, Howard, you were going to say something on that?
Well, I mean, last year in the Scott Fishbowl, I had Derek Carr and Russell Wilson as my top two QBs. So
Yeah.
I mean,
So there you go, dude.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally get that.
It's nasty.
I was gonna say there is a big drop off from the first few tiers as you go along. And if it's a draft like what happened today in my Scott Fishbowl draft, if you're not getting one of these high powered quarterbacks, like if you're close to the end of the draft, I would rather wait and grab a stud positional player than reach on a quarterback who's not really going to do much for me. I think I went with Lawrence because he's going to have a huge season, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But I was still waffling, thinking about taking Andrews because of how the scoring goes. But I went ahead and went with quarterback because I was so terrified of everybody being gone. But in the past, picking at, the 12th spot, everybody went quarterback heavy. I punted the position and loaded my roster with stud receivers. And then I still got Kirk Cousins and Geno Smith. Like, not the sexiest picks. They're not going to be around for much longer, but I wasn't going to reach at quarterback just for the sake of reaching.
Yeah.
I managed to kind of just mold my roster construction in a way that it still fit and that I still got high upside.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't matter where I'm drafting, whether I'm drafting first or I'm drafting in the middle, if I'm drafting at the end. I want to get a one QB in there right off the bat just to feel comfortable about it. And I did it in the Scott Fishbowl draft too, as well. I took Trevor Lawrence as well at that number 10 pick because I just wanted to make sure that I had one guy at least who was going to, I knew game in, game out, this dude is going to, he's going to perform and he's going to perform at a high level and do that. The second QB, when you're doing the big tournament like this in the Scott Fishbowl and you're going after that second QB and you're looking at, the third round reversal and taking them high up. That's why I did it there. But if I'm just in, let's say we're forgetting the third round reversal, I'm picking late, I'm picking 10th, I get Trevor Lawrence, I'm probably still waiting a little bit more time. And I'm probably not so hell-bent on a guy like Tua as I'm going to be to take a guy like a Cousins or a Rodgers or, just somebody stable. Doesn't have to have, this wicked high upside. That one was for you, Coop, wicked high. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, for me, now I'm channeling my Corey Parson. You know what I'm saying, right? I know, right? So, you both are like, oh, I don't know. Am I supposed to laugh at that? Come on, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, like that's kind of where I'm at as far as those QBs go. But I think like one of the most important thing that I think a lot of people forget, and that is it's a super flex league. It's not a 2 QB league. So if you don't hit on that second QB, it's not the end of the world. I mean, and I'll just, I'll throw my my Scott Fishbowl draft in here, just to kind of, throw it down there. But Jamar Chase, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, Cortland Sutton, and Brandon Cooks. That's 5 wide receivers right there. Okay, it enables me to use a wide receiver or running back in my super flex spot. You don't have to do it. Obviously, everybody wants to, but I mean, really, are you getting more out of having a decent pass catching wide receiver? You having like a Cortland Sutton or a Michael Pittman in your flex, as opposed to Bryce Young or Kenny Pickett?
Right. It's a much different feeling. It's a much different feeling when you don't have the QB2 than when you're missing the QB1, your like anchor QB. Like when you don't have that QB that you get early, and you can ask McGonigal who did it, and it doesn't matter if you have Saquon or CMC or whatever, you still feel like you left your house without your wallet, right? That feeling of like that you're missing something, the uncertainty. But with the second QB, it's not nearly as bad. So I'm with you, Howard. I don't mind scrapping, and the way I deal with that, the pain that comes with it is have some guys in your back pocket that you're comfortable with. Just do a little extra thinking about it before the draft and say, hey, am I comfortable with Derek Carr? Am I comfortable with Daniel Jones? In this, they go kind of high, but am I comfortable with Kenny Pickett? Right? If you can just have one of those guys and tell yourself that if I have, Trevor Lawrence is my QB1 and Kenny Pickett is my QB2, and possibly not even starting Kenny Pickett every week because I have Brandon Cooks and all these other guys, then I'll feel okay. Like if you can tell yourself that before the draft, you open yourself up to making so many more value-based decisions early on versus forcing yourself to take guys like Jared Goff, where Jared Goff, solid player, but the upside's not crazy. You might not even feel that great about him every week, right?
And I'll harp on this again too. In Scott Fishbowl, it doesn't matter that much because again, this year there is no negative scoring. But if you punt your second quarterback and you end up with some just like horrendous player that gets you negative points over and over and over, it's actually better to start one of these wide receivers or running backs in your flex because you're losing points by starting this bad quarterback. Just because they're a quarterback does not mean that you have to start them in there. And so know your league scoring, base your draft strategy off of that, and then kind of go from there because a lot of people get trapped into the fact thinking I have to start a quarterback. And then it comes back and bites them.
A couple of years ago in this league, when there were negative points for incompletions, I would have won 2 weeks if I just had benched Kirk Cousins and started no one. Like there were a couple of those weeks where he just went out there and dropped like 3 interceptions and was like, I'm done. So you gotta be careful in some of these formats with that for sure, Britt. Those are the only players that really get you, besides defense, that can actually get you negative points if they go out and play terrible and get benched.
So then, if I were to ask you guys what your level of need or interest in grabbing a third QB in a super flex, again, much more important in a 2 QB league. So let's say that. Let's just say it's a 2 QB league, right? What's your level of anxiety of not landing a third QB, or even for especially for that matter of like you accidentally weren't looking at bye weeks during your draft, and all of a sudden you're like, damn, both my QBs have a week 7 bye week. Where am I going to go? You need that third guy there. I mean, you're still going to be one short in a 2 QB league.
I almost always, if it's full 2 QB, I almost always grab a third QB, and it's for a very specific reason because I don't want to be a slave to the waiver wire, and I don't want to be in that waiver fab lottery where in these 2 QB leagues and superflex leagues, everyone sits on their fab because if a quarterback gets hurt or somebody gets benched, you need to get that guy, right? You need to drop $100 of 100 of 100. Like there are 5 people dropping $100 and
Right.
one person gets them. I want to be able to, I love making waiver moves. I want to be able to week 1 drop 2, maybe 3 guys and add people off the wire and spend $5 or $10 or $11 here or there. Like the moment, if you're in that QB lottery range and you spend $1, now you're not getting the quarterback. And I hate that feeling. So I like drafting third specifically for that. And especially in Scott Fishbowl. Like I hate being like sitting there being like, I can't spend a single dollar because I need it to get the big one whenever that happens, right? I need Brock Purdy. Like I hate that feeling. So I do push it a bit with the third.
But how often is that going to happen? Because
mentally,
in a 12-teamer, no, I'm saying in a 12-teamer, there's only 32 teams in this league. So how often is somebody going to get hurt or benched? Not often.
Guys, I mean, every mobile quarterback has gotten hurt the last couple of years except Josh Allen. I don't know how he does it, but everybody else is missing games.
But then you're just wasting fab for a couple week fill-in. So why not get like a legitimate starter who is going to be there, who you have? Then you can spend your fab on like running backs who get hurt because they get hurt all the time, on tight ends, on somebody who just popped up out of nowhere on a sleeper. I don't think that it's very wise to gamble on the fact that somebody's just going to pop up on the waiver wire in a 12-team league. And so I'm very adamant about getting a third quarterback before I even go to get my late round sleepers. I would rather get my third quarterback, and then I can lay back and relax and figure out, okay, now who's falling to me in value, because it's such a gamble to think that anybody is going to show up on waivers. And even if they do, what if they don't show up during the right week? What if they, show up and only play half a game? That kind of thing. It's not worth the risk to me.
What happens if you're in round 14 and you only have 2 QBs and there is no third sitting out there available? I guess so. So basically what you're saying, Britt, is that you likely will be, or what I should have done was I probably should have, instead of loading up on running backs and wide receivers, grabbing my one tight end there, I probably should have grabbed one of those late round QBs, because, Mayfield, Ritter, Tannehill, Mac Jones, Sam Howell, Jimmy Garoppolo, they're all off the board right now. None of them are available. Like Levis, Trask, Brissett, Colt McCoy, Mike White, Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold, Taylor Heineke, and Bailey Zappi. That's what's sitting out there right now. I almost feel like I don't even need to grab one of those, one of those names, because it's not going to help me in the long run.
No, once you get to that point, it's basically a waste of a roster spot, unless you fully believe that somebody is in line to take over a starting job. I know that last season, a lot of people thought that Malik Willis was going to take over the starting job from Tannehill, and he did in a way, but that was because of injury. It wasn't because he was actually good. And then when he got on the field, he was also not good. Well, if you're looking at a third quarterback, you need to look at somebody who's already listed as a starter or is in line for that starting position, just to solidify that.
Well, let me ask you guys, of the guys that aren't currently QB1 on the depth chart, if you had to pick one, who would you pick, and why would it be Jacoby Brissett?
So that answers my question to Coop of who should I take if I'm going to take a third QB.
Well, we know that Matt Deutsch, Better Boss, he pops in the chat. He was in here earlier today. He truly believes that Taylor Heineke will end up starting games for the Falcons, because he doesn't believe in Desmond Ridder. If you do believe in something like that, then in that case, stash your guy and see if it happens. Is there anybody that you're considering, Britt? Is anybody at all that's not currently QB1? Trey Lance, maybe?
No, I am on the Trey Lance hate train. I've always been on the Trey Lance hate train. I don't think that he is accurate. I think that his talent got overblown with the rushing upside that he offers. And I don't care if there is nobody else on the team who can throw the ball. Christian McCaffrey is going to be quarterback over Trey Lance. I dislike him that much.
Wow. I didn't realize that you had you were conducting the hate train, just shoveling coal on there. I knew you didn't like him, but I didn't know it was like that. Wow. Howard, anybody for you, the QB, or are you just not interested in anybody that's not named QB1 right now?
Nobody that really sparks an interest. Yes, I'm not a fan of Desmond Ridder either. I'm really not. I didn't think he was that good in Cincinnati. And so now, he's in the pros and he's with the, but the problem with taking Taylor Heineke is it's still a run first offense. And you're still only going to get, 25 passes out of him, maybe on average, if you're lucky. I guess I would probably have to look at Brissett. If I were to take somebody here from the quarterback spot, it would either have to be Brissett or Will Levis, because I think those are the two guys who stand the greater chance of, as far as for Washington, if Sam Howell sucks, they're just going to put Jacoby Brissett in there and let him do his thing. You need Tannehill to really tank it or get hurt, though, I think, for Levis to scoop in there. Either way, it's ugly. It ain't pretty at all.
Yeah.
UGLY.
In Superflex though, I don't feel the need. I'm in Superflex. I'm cool just going to, because what Howard said earlier, that you don't have to start one and you can get away with it. So
yeah, and I kind of feel like that's gonna be where I'm at with this. My wife did make picks, by the way.
Ooh, nice.
If you wanted to do a live pick update, and I liked one of her picks, and then the other pick I was like, oh, jeez.
Oh, what'd Deb do?
Okay.
Well, I don't mind the Tyler Algier pick. Might as well steal Bijan Robinson's handcuff, see what happens there. Again, Arthur Smith loves to run the ball. But then, those of us who play on Sleeper, we have to walk away with what? At least one kicker. And so
Did
here
you take
go.
Justin Tucker?
A 14th round pick on Harrison Butker instead.
I don't hate that. The extra points being worth 3 points.
I think I would
3.33.
3.3. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
I feel like you got to take Tucker just because he's got the big leg. Those 5-point bombs, right? A 50-yard field goal is 5 points.
Yeah, dude. Listen, you're asking me? Come on, please. This is my darling bride. She made the move, and that's what it is. That's the one thing. Also, I mean, the having to have a kicker situation, and then I mean, because here's the thing: if you invest in a pick like this, right, Harrison Butker or Justin Tucker or anybody like that, easy scampers. Easy. Don't put that bad juju on my wife like that, Mr. Scampers.
Hey, no negatives though. No negatives.
It's no negatives, which is great, but still. But like, here's the thing: like, if you take a Tucker or a Butker at the top there, then when it comes time for their bye week, you've gotta drop somebody and add another kicker. I mean, you don't have to. You can just go and take that 0, but that to me is why it's like it's tough to take one of these top high-end kickers, knowing that I'm going to need at least a second one. Although a good friend of Rhea, Britt, our friend Rhea, she actually ended up last year. She made it to the finals, and she was rocking like 3 kickers in her lineup towards the tail end of the season.
Yeah, I feel like kickers kind of get a bad rep, but in Scott Fishbowl scoring, especially the way that it is this year, the upside is so much higher than these dart throws that you're getting in the later rounds, because you know that they're going to be out there on the field for, a couple kicks. You don't know if your dart throw is even going to get any snaps. So I kind of like the idea of taking kickers in later rounds.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, a friend of the show, Linda Godfrey, aka Lindellians on Twitter, she dropped her kicker rankings for SFB.
Is it Lindellians? It's not Linda Lyons.
So her name is dude, again.
I've heard it pronounced 72 different ways. I had her on the show for Fantasy Arm. I was like, okay, first and foremost here, pronounce your Twitter handle for the world. Just get it done.
Well, her name is actually Lindell Godfrey. And people just been calling her Linda for so long that she just goes by Linda. That's not even a real name, which is hilarious. But but if you check out her kicker rankings, they deviate from ADP, and you can get, which according to the kicker expert that I trust, you can get a pretty solid kicker later on. So I'm probably going to draft a kicker at some point, I think, but I'm going to wait and take some of these sneaky ones. So go check her out at LINDELLIONS on Twitter. Let's plug.
Good job. Speaking of good plugs, I want to give a shout out here again to our good friends over at rtsports.com. Because listen, what are you guys going to do tonight? The home run derby? No, you might as well just start jumping into some best ball drafts. And the guys over at RT Sports and the girls over at RT Sports running some great stuff. You got the RT Sports Best Ball Championship. You can play the real-time sports fantasy football best ball championships. You can compete for a grand prize of $25,000, only $20 to enter. All right, so enjoy the draft. Get your best possible lineup each week automatically. There are live drafts every single night, so you can choose one that fits your schedule. Get our exclusive offer of 100% deposit match up to $200 for first-time users. Go to rtsports.com/alarm. use that promo code alarm23. And again, see, you put in $200, they match it, you get $400, and then booyah, that's a whole mess of best ball teams that you can kind of throw down with there. And what I love about it also is that you get paid out if you win your division. You're like, I think they do them in 10 teamers, right? It's abbreviated, a little bit of an abbreviated roster. It's only starting 2 wide receivers instead of 3. But yeah, so if you win your 10-team league, then I think you like 3x your money. You get like, $60 back, or maybe it's $100, and and then you're basically netting that range. So, and then you got the overall championship, like we see here in Scott Fishbowl, for $25,000. That's for their best ball championship. You can, and that's just, again, it's a set it and forget it thing. They also do have fantasy football championships, which I believe teams start at like $300, and is a $500,000 grand prize. So they've got like, I think it's like each league gets like $1,600 like distributed. So if you pay your $300 and you win your league there, I think you 3 or 4x your money for just winning that league, and then your team is entered into the whole shebang.
$500,000, dude. $500,000, dude. I go out, buy a gas station ground lease, let that pay me a salary for the rest of my life, dude. Just kind of chill. Beautiful.
I'd go out. Well, all right, here you go. What, $500,000? That's what Coop said. Britt,
I picked the most boring possible answer.
What would you do with $500,000? No, just right now. Right now.
I think I would buy probably a farm and go disappear.
Disappear,
honestly.
Though. Then I don't want you to win, dude. We need you on the show.
I want to go into the woods next to a river that has private access and no cell service or Wi-Fi service, and just disappear. Grow my own garden, raise my own little chickens and goats, and just be off grid.
Listen, I love that, because that was actually a thing that I think we had in the Wheel of Randomness on the Fantasy Alarm Show. Was you have your own private island. What's the first rule on your own private island? And I was like, no phones, no cell service, no internet, nothing. Boom. Let's get rid of it.
Yes.
Get rid of it. I think, all right, if I got $500,000, somebody handed me $500,000 right now, I think I would hire somebody to be the next Howard Bender so that I could go, and I'll just go on tour with Fish. Like, that's it. I'll let somebody else do all the work that I'm doing right now, doing all the shows, hanging out with Jim Bowden on Sirius XM, hanging out with you guys here, and yeah, I'd be on tour.
Robo Howard.
AI Howard. You guys would have AI Howard here.
That was the dream, dude. There you go. I mean, I would just take that money, $500,000, pump it into Fantasy Alarm, and just, Al Williams, just pay it back to me in salary, and let's juice this thing up. Let's get going, right?
Notice none of us said charity.
No, well,
none of us were like, oh, I want to give some of that away out to the kids and for the sick and the homeless. No.
I would give my vegetables and my goat's milk to the kids and the homeless after I have my own little homestead. That's what I would do.
I don't mind that. I would definitely move to Alaska immediately.
Yes.
That's been the dream.
Have y'all seen the crazy stuff that they do in Alaska for 4th of July? Since it doesn't get dark there.
No,
so they can't shoot off fireworks.
Oh yeah, you can't. Really
which I love, which is great for my dogs.
Right. They have this festival where they push a car off a cliff, and the car that launches the furthest off the cliff wins. And it's just some real crazy redneckery.
Do they like ghost ride them? Like, is there somebody like jumping out, tucking, rolling, or how do they do it? How do they get them going fast?
I've just seen the angles of them going off the cliff. I have not seen how they actually make it happen. But yeah, they probably just ghost ride them. I don't. But those cars are launching. They're launching.
I would like to know where in Alaska they do this.
I don't
I'll
see
let
why
you know after
everyone
the
wouldn't
show.
do that. That sounds infinitely better than fireworks. Why don't we should all do that.
Because
That's what it
I
should
like
be
to
everywhere.
set things on fire.
Well, you can set the cars on fire before you send them.
Right? Shout out to JPP.
Oh no.
Too soon?
Also, can we talk about the people still shooting off fireworks when it's a week after the 4th of July?
Those
I
are
know,
the
dude.
worst.
That gets me every time too because I'm not ready for it.
Well, Sellers came in the other night. He
They're
goes, "Did I
shooting.
just hear a gun?" And I was like,
Right.
"No, people are still shooting off fireworks."
Unbelievable, dude.
The worst.
Well, when AI Bender is president, fireworks will
AI Bender, he's gonna be the best. Oh, I can't wait for that.
Robo Bender.
Can't wait for that. Just or a hologram. Do a hologram for me.
Yeah.
Right? You do it for
Someday.
Tupac, you can do it for me.
I mean, you have enough out there in the airwaves where you've been on the radio for long enough where we've got enough samples. I think, right? You've probably said every word at least 10 times between all your shows and the Sirius show. They probably got a good library of words they can use.
This would be so good. All right, so we're wrapping things up here at the end. You guys, what do you have coming out? I've got the I'm neck deep in the cheat sheet and the systems article. Those all start cropping out next week, so everybody's gonna have all of that stuff from me next week. What do you guys have coming up here next? I'll start with Britt, because I see Coop like ready to just jump all over.
Coop's so, like, I've got a lot of stuff.
So, yeah, we'll let Britt scoot her stuff in here first, and then you can give us the laundry list there, Coop.
Okay,
yeah,
go.
so I was a little bit front loaded. A lot of my stuff came out in June, but I am coming out with an article tomorrow talking player futures and betting props and best bets, because there are a lot of really fun stuff that I can't normally do. And now betting's legal in Arkansas, so I'm going to do it. And I'm also, even though I don't have an article coming out, as training camp starts up, as the injury report comes out, that will continuously be updated. So any changes to that, just check back and I will make sure to have the most recent updates on those articles.
I'm sure Britt's going to have a few free articles out there for everybody as training camp kind of ensues. I know we're not going to be able to keep her down like that. She can't just be like limited. No. Give me some knuckles on that one there, Britt. Here we go. Ready? Come on.
Oh,
no,
wait,
other
wrong side. Why? It's not working.
Switching hands doesn't fix it.
What?
You guys got it. Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it. Anyway, Coop, what do you have? Get me out of this awkward situation.
I'm so glad you asked. So right now, so this is the part of year where I do my foundational stuff. We just did the target totem poll. Go back and watch that episode. That's huge. Check out that article. My Scott Fishbowl rankings are out there. This week, we're doing the running back questionnaire, one of my favorites, where you go through and you look at early down work, pass down work, all that stuff, and see who's going to do what role and kind of figure out who could be a sneaky bell cow, who could be what, right? So the questionnaire is going up this week. We'll probably talk about it on this show. And then the big event, the tight end series starts soon. We're going elite tight ends, then the fades, then the yin yang tight end, all your favorites coming at you starting soon. So it's that time. It's that time of year, baby. My favorite time. Let's go.
All right. Get yourselves over to fantasyalarm.com/draft guide. Use that promo code Howard on your all pro subscription. It'll take 50% off your first 6 months of that. So make sure you jump in on that. In the meantime, big thank you to everybody here who's watching. If you're on our YouTube pages, please hit that like and subscribe button. We would really appreciate that. Again, got to feed the families. So you're hitting that like button helps us do just that. In the meantime, big thanks to our producer, Ernie Acosta. Big thanks to Britt Flynn. For her and Andrew Cooper, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.